Our thoughts create heaven or hell, depending on where we choose to dwell. The quality of our life is determined by the thoughts that we're thinking all day long. And most of our thoughts are habitual. They go round and round like hamsters on a treadmill. It's important to be aware of what our habitual thoughts are, because they are coloring and creating our world. Our thoughts create feelings of well-being or feelings of being stuck in a well. And our feelings also create chemicals in our body. They create the chemicals of feel-good endorphins or the stress hormones of cortisol. We are literally walking laboratories, and our thoughts are the chemists. I recently had the experience to observe my habitual thoughts around doctors and hospitals. I've been feeling tired and weak for about 4 days. I had an elevated temperature. I had lost my appetite, which is very unusual, and my stomach hurt. It turned out that my appendix had ruptured. And I've always been very afraid of doctors and hospitals because of early childhood traumas. I'm afraid of losing my sovereignty, losing control, afraid of losing my money because I don't have health insurance. So now I was faced with an opportunity to either have a terrible bummer of an experience or have a wonderful learning opportunity. The way I chose to think about it would create for me whether I'd be spending time in heaven or in hell. In the emergency room, with the help of my husband Tom, I was able to enter into a state of peaceful acceptance. Tom held my hand and just surrendered to the experience. And we went into this expanded place of trust. Tom and I call that our trust fund. It's something we can always draw on. And I received an instant dividend from that trust fund when, after the operation, my doctor released me from the hospital after just 1 day because he wanted to save me money. And I felt very grateful for that. It was such a relief. However, after 3 weeks and 2 rounds of antibiotics, I still had a 101-degree temperature, and I felt scared. My doctor had told me that my burst appendix had been one of the worst he had ever seen. He said that it was black, it was gangrenous, it was shredded, it was generally yucky. And those were his words. So I felt worried that, did I have an abscess? Would I have to be re-hospitalized? Would there be more pain and more money down the drain? Would I die? My fears and my tendency to catastrophize were starting to take over. I was starting to feel a little bit like Mr. Bill, remember from Saturday Night Live, where he was beset by one catastrophe after another, and he would wail, "Oh no!" I so wanted to indulge in a fine wine like that. And I did allow myself a good cry, because I've discovered over the years that I really need to allow and acknowledge my thoughts and feelings that come up. They just want to be heard. And I found that when I try to rise above my feelings, all I've done is position myself better for them to bite me in the butt eventually. So now, instead, I sit them on my lap like children, and I let them express. I let them tell me what they're feeling, and I just listen and allow them to be. And then they can relax and let go of me, and I can shift to more positive feelings and experience. It's the dwelling in negative thoughts and feelings that causes harm. And I was aware that if I stayed stuck in my fear and worry, that it would hinder my immune system and keep me from healing. So I was really determined to focus on trust instead of fear, on acceptance instead of resistance, and on gratitude instead of resentment. As someone on a spiritual path, I'm aware that this attitudinal healing was even more important than my body healing, because it's a soul healing. So I really stayed focused on affirming this moment is perfect, just as it is. And I also kept reminding myself, my thoughts create heaven and hell. Where do I choose to dwell? When I was resting securely in this place of trust and acceptance, my high temperature went down to normal. And my trust fund once again yielded instant dividends. I'd like to invite all of us, as we go through our day today, to eavesdrop on ourselves. What thoughts are we dwelling in? And what chemicals are we cooking up in our body lab? Most important, where do we choose to dwell consciously?